Hey there, Stampers. Happy Friday. Welcome to this week's Facebook Live, which is a combination of things. It is a Christmas in July class, as well as I'm kicking off my BOGO event. So welcome everyone. My name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Sherwood Park, Alberta, Canada, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. All right, so I thought this would be a fun way to kick off the event. I know the actual BOGO part of the event doesn't start until 6 p.m. Mountain Time tonight, but I normally do Facebook Lives on Fridays at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time, so thought I would go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna close my window. The garbage truck is driving by. All right, a little loud. All right, so I will pop in a little bit later today and do another Facebook Live where I go over the details. For those of you who may not be familiar with how I run my BOGO events, I will pop in and share a separate video for that. This morning, I just want to focus on crafting and sharing some Christmas projects with you. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, well, Sherry, it's only July. Why are you starting Christmas? But to me, you can never start Christmas early enough. Especially your Christmas card making and Christmas shopping. I'm one of those people who, whenever I see anything that I think somebody might like, I pick it up. I don't wait until the last minute. I love to get as much of my shopping done early. So many of us make lots of Christmas cards. We have lots of people that we want to just let know that we're thinking of them during the holidays. So it's great to start early. So I was really excited when Stampin' Up! Came out with a Christmas themed suite in their online exclusives. So this year, you know that it's a transition year for Stampin' Up! And our catalog, our holiday catalog, does not start until September 6th for customers. So we do have a couple holiday themed items in the annual catalog, but not a lot. So there are a few more holiday things that were released in the online exclusives that went live the beginning of July. So you can check those. I did post in the description a link to the online exclusive section of the website, so you can check those out. All right, but this is the suite that I'm going to work with today. It is called the One Horse Open Sleigh suite and includes this fun bundle. And I hope that, I don't know if my Wi-Fi is cutting out. I know my screen is a little glitchy. So hopefully we don't have Wi-Fi issues. Okay, so this fun bundle. And then we've got these beautiful snowflake assortment. They're self-adhesive, almost like sequins, except they're shaped like snowflakes. They come in gold, copper, and white. And then this is the showstopper. The DSP is absolutely stunning. It's a 6x6 DSP. I'm just going to do a quick flip through. Actually, I'll show front and back. I love this. But side A are these beautiful scenery photos. I love this one as well. There's so many patterns in this paper pack that I love. I love that one side is beautiful imagery, like scenes that you can use. And then, okay, good. Thank you for letting me know. And then the back is just kind of generic patterns that can be used all year long, not just for Christmas. So this paper is absolutely stunning. I sat down and crafted with this earlier this week to create the samples for today. I ended up creating, I think, 6 or 7 cards using this DSP. I had a hard time cutting it up because it's just so pretty. Some of these patterns I could see just framing and putting on your wall. So this collection is a collection that you won't find in any of our publications. This is part of our online exclusive, so you can only see it online. I did post in the description a link to where you can see all of the online exclusives. All right, so that is the beautiful DSP. It's called the One Horse Open Sleigh DSP. All right. And we're going to create 2 cards today, and then I've got lots of additional cards that I'm going to share with you. Okay, so now my sample, I'm going to use different patterned papers for the card that I create now, my screen just froze here. Oh, okay. I think I'm still good though. So I'm going to use a different pattern paper for the card that I create this morning, and then the sample that I made uses a different pattern. So I'll be able to show you how you can recreate these ideas using pretty much any of the patterned papers that are in this pack. All right, and then like I said, at the end, I have a bunch of additional samples that I'll share with you. Okay, so this is the first pattern paper that we're going to use. And we're going to trim it down. So this is the type of pattern paper that you are not going to want to trim down too small because it's just so pretty. So for all of the cards that I created, I think I kept with the same measurement. I kept with the measurement of 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So what you want to do is you want to decide what you want the biggest part to be. So what you want on your card front. And I love this big tree here. So I'm going to cut it this way at 3 7/8. If you wanted to keep more of the pool party, which actually looks quite nice. Let's see here. You know what? I think I'm going to do it this way. So if you wanted to keep more of the pool party, then you could flip it around and cut it at 3 7/8 this way. Okay, so we're going to do it like that. So let me just double check, make sure I've got the measurement right. Yep, 3 7/8. And then you want to save that bit. And then we're going to rotate it around. And now when you make this cut, you want to decide, okay, do I want to cut more off the top or do I want to cut more off the bottom? So, and I think I'm going to do, I want to keep this snowy scene down here. So I think I'm going to cut it off at the top. Now, if this was higher up, I might not cut it off at the top. But because these trees are already cut off anyways, I'm going to cut it off at the top. And I'm going to cut it at 5 1/8. Okay. Set that aside. So we've got our piece. Like, look at that. It's so pretty. This piece is going to get matted onto a piece of early espresso that measures 4 by 5 1/4. And I've got my liquid purpose or my multi-purpose glue in this fun new container that is just absolutely fabulous because it's got a super fine tip. So I can not use too much of it and I can get those small little bits. You can put it where you want it. It doesn't get all over the place. I love it. And it holds about 1.5 bottles of our multi-purpose glue. And I just got these on Amazon. In last week's Facebook Live, in the comments, I posted a link to where you can find this. My friend Kathy gave me this one and I absolutely love it. All right, so I'm going to adhere this to a piece of thick white cardstock. Okay, I'm just going to reset my iPad. I hate that I can't see your guys' comments while I'm going here. Just bear with me for just a second. Okay, let's see. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, I'm glad that you guys are not having internet issues. I think it's just my iPad that seems to be having issues. Welcome. There's some new names here that I don't recognize. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I know many of you are here for the BOGO, which will start tonight. I will pop in probably around 1 p.m. Mountain Time today to do another quick Facebook Live going over the details for this evening's BOGO, just to kind of go over the details so you know what to expect, especially for those of you who are new and have not done a virtual BOGO with me before. All right, so I've got a scrap piece of white here, and I'm going to take the greeting that says, wishing you a season of cheer, and some early espresso ink. So none of these cards, well, I was going to say none of these cards are very complicated today. the ones that I share at the end are all very simple, and I stuck with a pretty similar design. This one is not very time consuming. The second one, because I'm coloring, it did take a bit more time, but it's not a difficult card. All right, so we've got our greeting, and then I've pre-done some things. So let me explain what I've got here. Okay, so I've got a 2 3/8 inch circle cut from vellum. So this is our new circle punch. So I've punched that from a piece of vellum. This is going to go on here just to kind of soften the background. Although the background isn't very busy, you could even skip that step. I've got 2 pieces of snow that I've cut. So that uses these 2 dies. And then I also cut this little tree or branch from some mossy meadow cardstock. All right. And then this piece, we're going to fussy cut. So I've gone ahead and I've fussy cut part of it, but I do want to fussy cut it a little bit more. What I want to do is I want to cut out this wishing you. So I just kind of loosely cut around it. Now you could definitely use it like this. I just love the look of words, scripty words that have been fussy cut. So I'm just going to finish fussy cutting in between here. And then this bit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these words. Fridays are garbage day here, and the garbage trucks come right when I'm doing my Facebook Live almost every week. Okay, so we've got, I don't want to lose any of these, so I'm just going to separate these words and then set them here for when I'm ready. Okay, before we start assembling, I want to do something on here. I'm going to take my Wink of Stella and I am just going to add a little bit of Wink of Stella just to the top of my snow. Oh, and it's going on quite thick. Let me grab a tissue here. Okay, that's going to take a minute to dry. I was splattering with it the other day, so a lot of it has accumulated to the tip of the brush because I was squeezing it. So I'm just adding just a little bit of shimmer so it looks like the snow is glistening. Does anybody else have this? This is an insert that goes in the cap to make sure it seals properly. And mine comes out every time I take the lid off. It's kind of odd. So that one has a lot of shimmer on it. This one just has a little bit of shimmer. All right. I know, isn't this beautiful paper, Leanne? So pretty. Okay, so we are going to add a little strip of adhesive. Okay, come on, cooperate here. There we go. Just right across there. That's going to hold our vellum in place. And then we're going to take these 2 pieces and we're going to add some dimensionals to the back. So I'm going to bring in my mini dimensionals, flip them over, add a couple to the back. Has anybody else started their Christmas cards? I don't usually start any earlier than July. I do like doing Christmas cards in July, getting a few done, just so that I don't have to do so many later on. Okay, and then we're going to add some dimensionals to the back of this. So you can see that I kind of offset that a little bit. Oh, hang on. And then this is going to overlap. And what I'm doing is, see this where the vellum circle at the bottom is? It's peeking out there. I want to make sure that that's covered over. So I'm just going to add that right over top. The other thing is, when I add this, I want to make sure I can't see that straight line from this snowy hill in behind. So I'm just being mindful of that. And then here, this is where this little glue nozzle comes in so handy. See how little glue you can get on there? Like it's not messy. It's just so easy to use. Just gonna add that on there like that. And I just added just a little bit of glue to the base because I like little embellishments to kind of be sticking up off the card. It just gives it a little bit more movement and dimension. And then I'm gonna use some more of that liquid glue. And then this is gonna go across like this. And my finger is sticky. I've got a little bit of glue on my finger. Robin has started her Christmas cards. Oh yeah, I mean you really don't need to do much with this DSP, do you? It's so beautiful. You really don't want to take away from it. But I do love the backside too, so it's hard to decide what side to use. So, and I love the separating words like this. It just gives it a whole different look. Okay, and they don't even need to be straight. Okay, so we've got that, and then I want to bring in some of these beautiful snowflakes. All right, so I'm going to use one of the big white ones, and we're going to put it right here. And then I'm going to use one of the medium size white ones and put it right here. Now for the inside, so when you cut this early espresso layer, because it's cut 4 by 5 1/4, you're going to end up with a strip of early espresso left. So save that. And then you also have, well, first of all, you have either this piece that you can use. So if you wanted to add this to the inside, you could do that. However, I feel like that's not I mean, you can't really tell what it is, right? So I'd probably save that piece and use it for this side. So this piece, it's not quite big enough for an envelope flap. I think you need about 2 1/4 inches minimum for an envelope flap. What you could do is you could add a piece like this behind and then do the envelope flap, but it's going this way, right? So it's sideways. So what I decided to do was to take this and add this to the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it the same length as this. So I'm just going to add a little strip of glue. So for those of you who are new to me, I don't like to waste a lot, but I also don't like to keep lots of scraps, because I do not like clutter. I like things to be organized. I'm very particular about my crafting space, but I don't like to waste. So if I can put these pieces to use while I'm crafting, I will. So I just cut that little bit off. So again, I'd probably save that and use it for that side rather than this side. And then I'm gonna put this on the inside. Oh, and I just realized what I did. This should have been on the other side, and you'll see why in a minute when I show you my sample. That's what happens when I get talking and crafting. So that just gives us this beautiful inside piece. And then there's still lots of room to write a message. You could even write a message over here, but there's still lots of room to write a message in there. So cute. So I am not going to stamp a greeting on the inside of this. You'll see on my sample that I have stamped a greeting on it. Okay, so now I want to add some twine on here, or some ribbon on here. Again, for those of you who are new to me, you will know that almost every one of my projects has either linen thread, twine, or this technique that I'm going to share with you. So I've taken some of our white herringbone ribbon and I have used some ribbon scissors and I cut up the side to remove this very thin, here, let me do this. I'll just do a little bit here so I can show you. I actually shared a reel on Instagram on how to do this just earlier this week. So you just cut up like that, just a very thin piece all the way up. And that will allow you to separate the fibers. So then I'm just gonna pull, and I'm getting pretty low here, so I'm gonna get lots of little bits and pieces. I don't need those bits and pieces, I need the long pieces. So now I can separate it, because this is a 3/4 inch ribbon. So if I were to tie a bow with that, first of all, it would take up a lot of space on my card. I think it would take away from my card. I just want a little bit of texture and just a little something added to my card. And this is a great technique to do. So I've taken all those pieces, kind of pinched them together to tie a little bow, and then I'm going to stick it right on here like that. And look at the difference. So we've got no ribbon. And then we've got ribbon. And I'm just going to hold that down just until that glue sets. And just that little added thing makes such a huge, huge difference. It adds so much to the card. So look at that. Isn't it pretty? So beautiful. All right. So as promised, here is my initial card that I made. So you can see it's exactly the same layout. I just used a different pattern paper in the background. So you get a different look based on the paper, the pattern paper that you used. And what I did in here was I kind of stamped my greeting over top because it's a little bit lighter on this side. So it worked. All right, so there is the first of the 2 cards that we're going to make. So pretty. So, and it's really simple. It came together really, really quickly. All right, next up, we are going to use this pattern paper. And again, my sample uses a different pattern paper. And we're going to cut it. This time we're going to do a landscape card. So that was a portrait card. This is a landscape card. We're going to cut it to the same measurement. So I want to cut, okay, let me think this through here. So I want it to be 3 7/8 going up and down. So I want to decide, let's see here, 3 7/8, but then I'm cutting off all this ground. So let's do 3 7/8 this way. I'm losing a lot of tree. So I'm going to do a little bit on both. So I'm going to cut maybe 3/4 of an inch off the bottom. And then I'm going to line it up at 3 7/8. And then I need to cut 5 1/8. And this is a pretty similar pattern. I'm going to leave this grass, so I'm going to cut it off this side. So 5 1/8. So just keep in mind when you go to cut it down, how you want it to look. Okay, what part of the paper do you want to save? So we've got that. So I'm going to save this piece for the inside of my card, and these 2 pieces I'll save because I will likely use the back side of them. All right, so we're going to set those aside. We're going to bring in a piece of white because we're going to do some stamping on this one. So I'm going to set these aside, and I'm going to bring in this fabulous Horse and Sleigh stamp. I'm going to ink it up with some Memento ink because I'm going to be coloring with Stampin' Blends. Now, if you choose to color in using a different method, so if you're going to use your water painters and your ink pads, or if you're going to use your Stampin' Write markers or watercolor pencils, then you'll likely want to stamp with StazOn ink. But Memento ink is the best ink to use for Stampin' Blends. All right. Just make sure I get a nice even impression on there. Perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna do some coloring. So I've got several colors here. Let me go through the colors that I have. I have Misty Moonlight. I have Gray Granite. I've got Daffodil Delight. I've got Real Red. And then I have SU 300 and SU 1000. And these two, I think, are from the, I can't remember if it's called the Neutrals or the Naturals Stampin' Blends pack. All right, so we're gonna start by coloring in our horse. I'm gonna take my dark Gray Granite, and I'm just going to color in bits of the horse's mane, its tail, just parts of its tail, and then its hooves. And then we'll come in with some light. So the horse is going to be white. I don't want to color in the whole horse. So we're going to have a white horse with kind of gray hair. And I'm just going to add just the wispy hairs around its hooves. I'm going to add just a little hint of color, and just kind of where these lines are, I'm just adding a little bit of color as well, and maybe around his backside. All right, then I'm going to take this SU 300, which is the brown, and add a little bit of brown here. And there. Okay, we're gonna go back to our dark gray. I wanna color the sleigh gray. So I'm gonna add a little bit of dark Gray Granite kind of around the edges. And I'm okay with not going right to the edge. I'll bring this up a little closer so that you can see. See how in some areas I didn't go right to the edge? That's okay, because I'm gonna fill it in with light Gray Granite. And if you've colored lots with blends, you'll know that they tend to kind of spread a little bit. So I can fill in those gaps by just coloring close to the edge, and I know that it will spread out. And that way I know that it's not gonna spread outside the lines. So I'm just adding a bit more. I'm gonna leave a little bit of white space, and I'm just kind of going around the edges where I had the dark, just so that I can soften that transition just a little bit. Okay, so that's what it's gonna look like. All right, let's work on our people. So now I've got some red, and I'm gonna do a little bit of dark. Now for this, you really don't need to do a lot of shading because the areas are so small, it's not super noticeable. So I'm coloring one of the blankets in red. And then I'll fill it in with the light. And I like to use the brush tip. You can use the bullet tip when you color if you want. But I prefer the brush tip. I feel like as long as I use a light hand, I have a bit more control because it's a little bit of a finer tip. I'm coloring in their hats in red as well. Then I'm gonna bring back my Wink of Stella and this little pom-pom on this hat. I'm just gonna color in to give it a little bit of shimmer. Okay, we're gonna add a little bit of yellow, and I chose to add a little bit of yellow just because there is quite a bit of yellow in this DSP. So I've got a little bit of dark, and this, okay, this one is well used. so I don't get as fine of a tip. So that's when I'm gonna go with the other tip, and then this. Okay, and then we're gonna bring in some Misty Moonlight. Almost done with our coloring. And I'm gonna color the other blanket in Misty Moonlight. So I'm just adding a little bit of dark. Again, not going to, oh my, look at that. I just got these yesterday. I'm gonna have to call Stampin' Up on that. Look at that, the point is missing on it. Okay, we'll use the other tip then. So I'm just coloring in the rest of the blanket, and I think it's his jacket as well. So by the time you finish coloring these in, you really can't tell that you've used both dark and light. Okay, and then I'm just going to use this lighter color to color in their faces and his hand. All right, so it's all colored in. So cute. And there is a die that will cut it out. So this die, I love that Stampin' Up does this. So that will cut it out nicely. So I've got one that's already cut out. And then the other thing that I did is, okay, so we've got that that's cut out. I also used, set that aside, I used some silver foil and I cut out this piece here, which is this, and this piece here, which is this. And it took me a while to figure out what this was. And then I used some early espresso and I cut out this piece here. Okay, so I've pre-done all that. We're gonna just do our last bit of stamping and then we can start assembling. So again, I'm bringing back that early espresso, and this is not the greeting I want. Neither is this. Okay, let's grab our stamp set. And I want Sending Warmth Your Way. So just ink that up with some early espresso on a scrap piece of white. And stamp that down. Okay. Now we're going to bring back our pieces. This time I'm going to mat this onto a piece of Night of Navy. And it's the same size as our early espresso in the last card. So it measures 4 by 5 1/4. You can get 4 of them out of one sheet of 8.5 by 11. And then we're going to put that on a white card base. This is our thick white cardstock. I always like to use our thick cardstock for my card bases if I'm using white. All right. And now we're going to assemble our sleigh. So this little swirl, this is actually for the sleigh. It goes on just like that. So you can use adhesive sheets for this. I was not thinking that yesterday or the other day when I cut these. Adhesive sheets would save having to use glue, but this fine tip nozzle actually works quite nicely. Good morning, Tracy. All right, we're gonna pop out these pieces, and this is for the runner on the sleigh. Just add a little bit of glue on some of these wider bits. And then this is going to go right down here, just like that. I'll slide these bits out of the way. Okay, then we're going to flip this over. This is going to get popped up using some dimensionals. I've got a couple little leftover pieces here. We're going to use these up. And then grab these ones. Oops. Oh, this guy's still attached to the edge here. All right, one more. Okay. This is going to get popped up like this. And look how cute that is. Oh, so pretty. Okay, we're going to add that on there. This is going to get tucked in behind. Just trying to figure out, yeah, that's going to fit in there. So again, I'll just add a little bit of glue to the base and just kind of lift this up a little bit. Just a little bit of added texture in the background, and then we're going to do our greeting. So our greeting, this time I'm not going to fussy cut it. I'm just going to angle cut this piece, and I'm going to take my bone folder and just curl it a little bit. So it looks like that. So it's a little bit curled up. Right there, I'll put a dimensional, and then I'll use flat adhesive for the rest. But of course I need to add my fibers, right? Can't do a card without some baker's twine or linen thread. So we're just gonna use some more of this herringbone ribbon. I shared a reel on Instagram today. If you're not following me on Instagram, head on over there, Sherry Stamps, where I shared how you can stamp on this ribbon as well. Okay. So we're just going to tweak this a little bit. Yeah, it just gives a little bit of movement to the greeting. I probably will trim the ends on this a little bit. So we're going to add that right about here. Just put a little dot of multi-purpose glue. I've shared this tip in the past. I do prefer to use multi-purpose glue to adhere my bow when I do this technique, because if you use a mini glue dot and you need to reposition, it will pull some of these fibers in directions that you don't want them to go. So I find you have a little bit more flexibility to reposition if you use multi-purpose glue. Okay, and I want that up. And then this is going to go right on here. I'm going to line it up at the edge of my DSP and stick that down. Make sure that's straight. And then I'll trim the ends, and we've got almost our second card done. We'll just quickly do the inside, and then I'll share all the other ones. Oh, let's make sure they're all trimmed. Oh, and I moved my bow. Okay. It's moving all over the place. Okay, hopefully that's on the ribbon or on the glue. Okay, and then this piece, this little scrap that we had left over, I'm just going to add that to the inside just to pull a little bit of pattern. To the inside and use at least one of those little scraps that we had left. And there we go. There's our second card. Let me just cover this, and I'll pull in my sample because I used a different pattern. Just slide everything out of the way. All right, and then here was the first one that I did. So I used one that has a little bit more blue in it. So again, it's the same card, but it looks very different because we used two different patterned papers. So there's the second card. And then for those of you who joined in a little bit late, here is the first card. Again, 2 different patterns. And then, like I said, I created lots of additional cards as well. I was trying to use up all of the different patterned papers. I didn't quite make it through all of them, but let me share. I made sure to use a different pattern paper for each one. So we've got this one. So here I used this one with the fox, and it's got a little copper in there. So I threw in some copper ribbon and then the copper snowflakes. Again, it's such a simple design. You really don't need anything too complicated with this DSP. So kept it very, very simple. And then here I used the gold and a different pattern paper. Again, a similar layout. And then this one really didn't need a whole lot. That one. And this one I used a different greeting. So for this one and the next one, let me just find the stamp set so I can show you. I used a stamp set from last year, which I believe it's it's still current. So I believe it's in the annual catalog. It's called Brightest Glow. It's a great Christmas greeting stamp set. So that's that one. And then I'm running out of room here. And then this was the last one. So again, this is a greeting from the Brightest Glow stamp set, but I used the B side on this one. This one had a pretty scenery on the back, but I absolutely adore this pattern paper. So I wanted to use that. So it combines like gray and crumb cake. So I used some Pebble Path ribbon, added a little crumb cake banner. And then I have one more to share with you, which just let me grab it. You know, all those little strips that we had left over, those 2-inch strips, here is a great way that you can use those. So for this one, again, I used the Season's Greetings from the Brightest Glow. I used some crumb cake ribbon. I layered these shapes, just smaller size. I think I used this size and then one smaller. I die cut them in vellum, just for just a subtle layer. And then these are all just, I think they're 1.5. Yeah, 1.5 inch squares. So that's a great way to use up some of your scraps. And you could do that with any patterned paper. It doesn't have to be this pattern paper, but I just loved the combination of these 3 patterns together and the combination of kind of gray and brown. And then this twine is the jute trim, the in color, it's Pebbled Path jute trim. So, and I love it. So lots and lots of inspiration using that beautiful One Horse Open Sleigh DSP. Yes, Tracy, you're right. This paper, she says that it reminds her of the Horizons DSP from a couple years ago. Easy to stamp on. Like, you don't really need to do a whole lot to this pattern paper to make beautiful cards, right? So lots of Christmas inspiration. Hopefully I've inspired you guys to start your holiday crafting, or at least start making Christmas cards. But again, if you've got patterned paper that is kind of has scenery that maybe isn't Christmas, it could be something else. You could take these card designs, this one, switch out the greetings, this one, these are all great kind of layout designs that you could use with any beautiful pattern paper. All right. So thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, I will be popping back in with another live around 1 o'clock to go over the details for the BOGO event this evening. And I hope you guys are all as excited as I am about the fabulous deal. I mean, buy one, get one. Get retired product absolutely free. You can't get any better than that, right? And get to shop new product. So I will pop in again a little bit later today. And if you have any questions, just shoot me a message or comment here and I'm happy to answer them. All right. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in a little bit.